Well, good morning, real estate fans, and welcome to the Real Estate Show. I'm Alice Lema, here with Pete Belcastro. We're both brokers at John L. Scott, Southern Oregon. You can catch us on YouTube. We've got the Real Estate Show, southernoregon.com there. And today we've got still the coronavirus, the pandemic, and we still have people buying and selling their properties. Isn't it interesting, Pete?
Well, look, we've been at this thing now for how many weeks? 7 weeks, I think.
Yeah,
or 8
almost
weeks,
2 months.
wherever it's been. And when this thing first started, I thought a lot of us thought the real estate market is going to just kind of fall off the cliff when you can't go anywhere, you're locked down, you can't move, what's going to happen? And I'm telling you, as we've watched the stats, we've watched this thing for 8 weeks unfold, it has been remarkable the number of sales that are taking place, the activity going on week after week, even though it's down, from a year ago.
How about the number of listings? People are still listing their properties.
There were 96 new listings last week in Jackson County. It's amazing.
Wow, that's more than 10 a day.
Despite all that's going on. Anyway, so we're excited about that. Hey, today on the show, Alice, it's going to be great. Tina Grimes, she's the executive director of the Rogue Valley Association of Realtors. She's going to join us in a little bit, along with Devin Zupan, who's the president of the association as well. And, they've been involved in so many things here since this has started. You think where real estate has gone, people up here at this level, they've been involved in a lot of discussions about how this is going to take place. And so we're going to hear from them today about the new protocols about that. And we have something new that we'd like to share with everyone, is that the new stats that we have come from a new multiple listing, group. It's called Flex MLS. And Tina and Devin can talk about that. It's really cool, I think, because it gives us so much more information about what the market's like.
Well, and a lot of people don't know that the MLS platform changed. A lot of the general public doesn't, and it's been worth the pain because the new Flex MLS has a lot of other features that our old platform didn't. But it's hard to change your major platform for your industry in the middle of a pandemic, but we did it.
I just wonder if they planned the pandemic so they could ease us into the Flex MLS system.
I don't think there was anything easy about it, but if you're listening, just know that your local realtors have absorbed a lot of new training and new cool technology, and Tina and Devin are going to be here to talk to us about that, as well as what's going on in the local Southern Oregon real estate market during the pandemic. So please stay tuned. We've got a lot to talk about, our local stats. We'll be right back after these quick messages, so don't go away. And welcome back to the Real Estate Show here on KCMX News Radio 880. And did you know, simulcast on FM 95.5. Welcome back, Pete Belcastro, and I'm Alice Lema. We're both real estate brokers here with John L. Scott in Southern Oregon. And we are having an interesting conversation today with Tina Grimes and Devin Zupan. Tina, welcome. You are the CEO of the Rogue Valley Association of Realtors and Southern Oregon MLS.
Yes.
How are you doing?
I'm hanging in there.
Yeah.
Right now.
Yeah. And Devin, you are the president of Rogue Valley Association of Realtors, managing broker of Windermere Van Vliet and real estate royalty because of the Van Vliet real estate family. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Great. Now, Devin, you had, right before we went on air, mentioned that there was a lot of legislation meeting and such for real estate going on right now. Why don't you bring us up to speed on that?
Yeah, sure. So right now, the mid-year legislative meetings for the National Association of Realtors are occurring. Under normal circumstances, we'd be in DC lobbying with some of our legislators and talking about the future of real estate, the trends and where it's going. But because of our current pandemic, we are now doing these type of meetings for a lot of time during a lot of days. So like I was saying earlier, I think this is my 5th Zoom meeting or webinar that I'm being a part of, but nonetheless, it's getting a lot of members engaged. I think they said in one of our panels today that they've had 20 to 30,000 realtor members sign up to be a part of these legislative meetings and find out exactly what NAR is doing amongst this COVID disaster and how they're helping realtors and just general industry trends across the country.
What are some of the highlights so far?
Well, you guys have probably been on a few of these meetings, and they're actually saying that it's working. They're connecting with members, and they're finding ways to, reach out and help other realtors continue to do their business. I think in most states we are an essential service, and so they're just a little bit different ways of doing things. The other highlight I kind of saw on a national level today is real estate is still happening all over the country. Things are still selling. Yes, we're adjusting. We're probably doing things a little bit more virtually before we go tour a house. But across the country, it's still selling. And we had Dr. Lawrence Ewan, who is NAR's economist, on today. And he was talking about that little dip we saw in April is going to be the trough. Everything is going to continue to rise up from there. And they think we're going to have a phenomenal third and fourth quarter, which is great.
Well, that is great. Tina, what are your thoughts on that?
I unfortunately wasn't able to see Dr. Yoon yet because I'm going to watch the recording later, but I was on a different meeting while he was going on. Yeah, we're doing lots and lots of video meetings this week because, as he said, normally we'd all be in DC. The one benefit to this, one of the benefits to this is that normally when we do the DC meetings in person, they get a huge turnout, but it's 9,500 to 10,000 realtors.
Oh my gosh.
That's a huge amount of realtors all of a sudden descending on the Capitol Hill to meet with their legislators. That makes a big impact. However, right now, like Devin said, they're having between 20 and 30,000 realtors every day logging into these meetings. So they're, doubling and tripling the impact of the realtors who are finding out what NAR is doing and working on at the federal level, which is really cool.
Mm-hmm. That's exciting.
Yeah, and it's not just for the realtors; it's for property owners. We're one of the few organizations that doesn't just lobby for our members; we lobby for our members' clients too. Which is huge.
Mm-hmm.
So, for me, one of the highlights is just like Devin said, real estate is still happening. We've adapted, we've figured out different ways to do it. I think at every level, the local, state, and national associations, we've been pumping out information for you guys, tips and tricks on how to change your business and make sure you're observing social distancing, but still getting the job done.
So one of the things that's come up over and over again is people don't seem to realize that the real estate professionals are still available to help. Pete, what have you discovered this week out in Southern Oregon real estate?
Well, it seems to be that, at least from my experience, and Devin can also speak to this, since he's out there as well sometimes, is there's a lot of demand still coming from out-of-towners who, as we've started to ease restrictions, and Jackson County has done such a great job of keeping numbers down and at zero. It's been really, really encouraging here. But as we ease restrictions, it seems like a lot of people are starting to fly in now. They're coming back into the market. So, I think we're going to have an amazing, there's just a lot of activity going on. And it's very exciting for a lot of people because there's great opportunities that come with this type of situation.
Well, and if Devin's right, and that was the trough in April, then we could be positioned for a really strong summer. What do you think, Devin?
That's what I'm hoping for. To Pete's point, there's a lot of people coming in. I would say, if anything, our biggest, obviously health and safety is most important. That's our biggest concern, is making sure of that. But when it comes to real estate activity itself, is maintaining an inventory level that can support the number of people that want to buy right now. I know with our office specifically, we're sitting here going, okay, our listings are all going away. We've got a lot of sales, but we need to start getting some more listings. And, hopefully when the economy starts going through its phase 1, 2, and 3 reopens, that people will feel more comfortable listing, and that it's just people kind of hanging out, waiting to see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious as to what you guys think would be the biggest changes or the biggest thing that the pandemic has done to our business. What do you think that's been?
I can say on a positive note, there's a flow, if you will, when it comes to purchasing a home. And a lot of that starts with getting pre-approved and then doing online research in order to identify the right home that a buyer might want. So whether that research is now going through virtual tours, video tours, I feel like people are taking what used to be a list of 10 homes they want to see down to maybe 2 or 3 and then making an offer. And I think that's an optimistic flow in general. So, you know, the buyers are coming in, they're already pre-approved. We don't have to worry about that vetting out process and whether or not they can afford the house that they might be looking at. So they know what they can do, and they're going through and looking at homes online and figuring out what they want, and then looking at less homes because of the pandemic. And I see that as something that could continue, just from a general pre-purchase research standpoint.
Yeah.
I think the lenders have adapted as well, and you guys can tell me what your experience has been, but has anybody had any lenders completely waive the appraisal for their borrowers? Completely. Don't even do one.
I've heard about it, have not seen it yet.
I hadn't even heard about it, so.
So
I've heard of one, but it's, you know, significant down. But I'm also hearing about drive-by appraisals.
What's a drive-by appraisal? They don't get out of their car?
Yeah, they basically go around the outside of the house, and then they take the virtual tour and they appraise it based on what they can see in the virtual or video tour.
The appraisers are using the virtual tour as well?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I have heard about those, yes.
Wow, that's different. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, it's not, when you think about all the way we're changing, the way we do business, that makes perfect sense.
It does.
It's
Why
like,
wouldn't they use it? I just,
you know, I mean, instead of having to go into the house, it makes total sense, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, and we were, Devin and Patrick and I were on Patrick's our SOMLS president. He and I, the three of us were on a meeting earlier this morning and talking about the fact that, you know, we think moving forward, we're going to kind of see a hybrid where some stuff goes back to what it was, but a lot of stuff's going to stay, because one thing this pandemic has forced us to do is discover new efficiencies. Things that maybe have been available for a long time, like video conferencing, that we had just never really utilized because you know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
That's right.
But we've been forced to now fix it. And so I think moving forward, we're going to see kind of a hybrid of what was before the pandemic and what it's been during the pandemic. We're going to hopefully take the best of both and mash them together moving forward. The one thing you were talking about, the inventory, and you know, as we track key box showings here, how many times lock boxes get opened, we've seen a dramatic decline in those. But I don't think that's necessarily indicative of less activity, because as we've said, I think people are looking at things more virtually first and then narrowing down their choices before they actually physically go see the home.
so this is going to skew our ratios, because we're used to having a certain ratio of key box openings to sales. But our sales are still fairly strong considering, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, they dipped a little bit in April, but not nearly as much as we were anticipating that it might.
This kind of feels like a lot like a winter market, you know, where you have fewer openings and things, but the buyers that are out there are like really serious.
Yeah.
And that's what I see right now, is that it's not for what the people are not just out looking to look.
Right.
The people who are looking are very serious about buying, because as Alice always has been saying, they still have a need. There's still a need in this pandemic world to buy and to sell. You just have different choices, different needs in your life.
Yeah. Well, and I don't have any numbers to back this up, hard numbers, but anecdotally, I've been hearing a lot of reports of, you know, the stuff where there are still a lot of showing activity is the vacant homes, the unoccupied, you know,
interesting.
Where there's no danger. If they go view the home, there's no danger of anybody getting infected because nobody's living there right now. So I think, as Devin said earlier, that's exactly what's going to happen, is as we enter phase 1 and phase 2 of reopening and sellers get more comfortable with people being in their home, I think we'll see those inventory levels start to rise again.
Yes, it's pretty weird when I get pretty excited about seeing a vacant home, because you're right, it is easier to show, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, you have to call, make appointments, this kind of thing. But anyway, it's funny.
Well, and I don't know about you guys, but the protocols for the buyers, it's been fun teaching them. Everybody's masked and gloved, and the buyers walk around with their hands in their pocket. And you have to make sure they keep their hands in their pocket and their mask doesn't fall
Alice
off, and don't touch this and don't touch that. Let me
Alice
touch that for
Alice
you.
is pretty tough, though. Alice is pretty tough on him.
Well, it's for everybody's safety, right, Devin?
Yeah, absolutely. Take your hand sanitizing wipes with you, wipe the lockbox down, wipe the handle down. If somebody does bump into something, wipe it down. If they want to see a cabinet, pull it open with the hand sanitizing wipe. It's definitely a different way of doing business, but hey, you know what? We're realtors, so we find a way.
We are the most adaptive industry, aren't we? Adaptive people, adaptive industry.
Yeah, you know, one of the things, Devin, why don't you, because you actually watched it, why don't you share with them what you were telling me about what Dr. Yoon said about how this is similar to Hurricane Katrina in New Orleans or 9/11 in New York. And
well,
that
and hold that thought, because we've got a hard break coming up.
Okay.
But that is an excellent point, because it's really more of an event than like a big economic downfall. So don't change that dial, real estate fans. We're going to be back with the Real Estate Show with Tina Grimes, Devin Zupan, Pete Belcastro. We'll be back in just a minute, so don't change that dial. And welcome back to the Real Estate Show. I'm Alice Lema here with Pete Belcastro. We're both brokers at John L. Scott, Southern Oregon, here talking about the local real estate industry and what's going on with the pandemic, our summer market, and everything in between. Joining us today is Tina Grimes, the CEO of the Rogue Valley Association of Realtors, and Devin Zupan, who's the president of the Rogue Valley Association of Realtors, but he's also the managing broker of Windermere Van Vliet. And we were just getting ready to talk about the national economist, Dr. Lawrence Yun, who is speaking about the pandemic and the economy and the housing market. So take it away, Devin. Tell us what you heard.
Yeah, so you kind of hit on it earlier. It was really kind of cool because he took it all the way back to comparing the pandemic to the Great Depression, and how the Great Depression really, you could see it for 4 to 5 years coming. And obviously that was a lot longer of a curve, took longer to recover. Similar to what we saw in 08. I mean, yeah, it kind of hit us pretty quick, 08, 09, but you could see the writing on the wall. It was coming. Then it was really interesting because he compared it to how New Orleans recovered with what was going on after Katrina, and the unemployment numbers that they saw and how they rose up to 18%, but within a relatively short time thereafter were able to come back down and even dip below what they were pre-Katrina. Compared it similarly to 9/11, I mean, it was that kind of hit, and that one actually hit the whole country a little bit more than Katrina did because it made everybody kind of pause. Mm-hmm. But what you notice was something that happened so unexpectedly, like this pandemic. It's just like 1 minute it's China, the next minute our country shut down. And we're dealing with all these deaths and especially on the East Coast, and we've been fortunate here in Jackson County, but yeah, I mean, it's that thing where everybody just kind of pauses and stops, and yes, you're going to see the unemployment numbers rise, unfortunately, due to the pandemic. But as we start to go through the reopening procedure, the hope, and what multiple economists, I mean, Windermere's got a chief economist as well, and what they're saying is these numbers are going to fall back down, and we're going to be where we were, if not better off. And again, we could have a really booming third and fourth quarter, especially if a vaccine comes out. But I don't think most of what I'm hearing is that's probably not going to be till 2021.
Well, even if antibody testing just comes out, on a limited scale, even limited scale antibody, I think it makes everybody feel better. And it's important to get the word out to everybody that this was an event, kind of like an earthquake or a hurricane, not a huge economic meltdown. And it's just hard to get that message out to people.
Yeah, but it is a good message, yeah.
And it also, I'll put a little bit of caution on your guys' fire, just because we have a governor who is bent on not doing those things that you guys just said. I mean, so it's really it's going to be government's role here, and government overreach is how much we come back, because when we go into the fall, the economic losses that we're seeing are just enormous.
True.
And I hope you're, Devin, I hope you're right. Tina, I hope you guys are right. But boy, I'll tell you, it's a lot to overcome. And we're still not over the economic loss. We're still seeing job losses. And in our county, that could be bad.
Right.
You know? So we'll see. I hope you guys are right, though. But it's just pretty bleak for so many people. Think of all the people who were in contracts, who lost contracts because they lost their jobs for housing. We had a show last week about the rental market and what we're seeing there. Jeff Rogers told us that he has 21 commercial listings, Tina, and he said he's not had one call in over 2 months.
Yeah.
There's nobody to take their place.
Right. Well, and I will say that Dr. Yoon did caveat all of that by saying that, you know, that is in states that are reopening and have a successful reopening. You know, yeah, our state might be a whole different picture because our governor is determined to do this at a snail's pace, which no, I'm not going to get into my personal opinion on things. I'll just say that, you know, she has a reason. Yes.
Yeah,
So.
no, absolutely.
But at least it's not Los Angeles. Did you hear what happened?
Yeah, they extended their shutdown till August.
Right.
Yeah.
So we would like to invite all of those Angelinos to move to Oregon right now. Run, don't walk. Buy a place up here.
I think
it's going to happen. You know, what's interesting to watch as you go into what are people doing with your time? Have you been into Home Depot at all, or Lowe's, or any of the home Hubbards, or any of the home improvement places? They're flooded with people. What are they doing? They're improving their homes. They're improving their properties. Are they going to sell them all, or what they're doing? But there is some big.
Oh, we hope so, don't we, Devin?
All over. It's amazing.
Oh, I've been to the Grange 2 or 3 times in the last 2 weeks, and you can't find a parking place. You cannot find a parking place, and everybody's in the garden shop.
The Grange has had some of their biggest.
Decided to plant a garden all of a sudden.
Yeah, the Grange has had some of their biggest days in their history on these weekends in the pandemic. You're right. People are planting gardens. They're improving their property. They're doing fix-ups. It's really great to see. So I'm excited about that part of it, I think, as well.
Well, I wish they could plant gloves and masks. We could shoot you some more of those.
There you go.
I want to ask, if I can ask Tina a question. You changed the whole system here, and for realtors, it's a great thing because we can do better service for our clients and things. But we now can look at all of the listings in Central Oregon now as we can in Klamath and Deschutes, you know, the counties up north or Central Oregon. How's that gone? Do people like it? It's a great advantage, I think, for all of us to have that kind of bigger mobility to see things, right?
Yeah, I mean, we've regionalized the MLS by entering. We have now a shared database between 3 different MLSs. So us, Klamath County Association of Realtors, and the Central Oregon Association of Realtors. So between the 3 of us, we now cover 9 primary counties, at 44% of the state, geographically speaking. And,
wow.
and you guys now have access to all that data in the database. And we changed the software platform at the same time. And all of that has been in the works for over a year. So who knew that when it came time to launch everything, we'd be in the middle of a pandemic.
Why not?
Yeah, it made perfect sense.
What's one more thing?
So that's been a challenge because obviously we haven't been able to do any live trainings for the realtors, which to teach them really how to use the new system, all that's had to be done virtually. And when you're learning a new program like that, there is a huge advantage to having a trainer in front of you and being able to ask questions as they come up instead of watching a recorded webinar. So that has been a challenge, but and any kind of a software conversion is a huge hurdle because not only are you converting a database, and in our case, we're converting 3 databases into 1. But then you guys learning the new software and learning the new workflow, because every program has its own workflow. It's like changing from an iPhone to an Android or vice versa. You've got to learn the new way of doing things. It still does the same functions, but it has a different workflow. So it's been a challenge, but I think when all the dust settles, I think you guys are going to love it. The clients are going to love it. I mean, one of the benefits to the new system we rolled out is there is a client-facing mobile app that you guys can use with your clients, brand it for yourself. Your clients can download it, and then all their client portal stuff that you do with them, they have right on an app on their phone.
Well, and it just has so many more analytics. It has so much more detail. It's like everybody likes it better already.
Much more robust. Yeah.
So one of the things it does have is more statistics. And I think we just had our local statistics come out this week. So let's talk a little bit about what's just today. What's going on with that? Devin, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I could jump in. And then Tina, you can kind of back me up on anything here.
Sure.
But yeah, kind of like I mentioned, you know, hopefully with the trough being in April, we saw that Jackson County listings were down, what, 26% compared to last April, year over year. And we anticipate until we get a full reopen that it's going to be down. Sales still continue to rise. And Josephine County had very similar numbers as well. So yeah, we're going to see some listings come down, but all in all, the market is still moving like we were talking about earlier. So there's definitely a lot of benefit to look at it. But yeah, I think that once the listings start coming back on, when we reopen, then the numbers will definitely pick back up across the board. No, assuming, like you mentioned, Pete, that we do get to reopen.
Yeah, well, it's a big concern. A lot of us are worried, where are these listings going to come from? Who's going to want, you know, to go ahead and take the next step and put their house on the market so they can take advantage of this opportunity?
Well, you know, we always talk about the markets where they are in price ranges. You know, Alice, what's the most popular price range in Jackson County?
Under 300.
Well, 250 to 350,000 is that price range. And in April, just in April of this year, 70% of the listings, there were 139 listings in residential. 70% of them went in the first 30 days.
Good.
You know, so, I mean, think about that. If you had a house between 350 and 500,000, almost half of them, 48% of them, went in the first 30 days.
Yeah.
So that's moving some product out of there. Now, look, if you go up into the $1 million ranges, it's going to be a whole lot different, and only 10% of those sell in the first 30 days. But we know that because it's fewer buyers, even though they have a lot of inventory in there right now. So those lower price ranges are still really selling pretty darn fast.
Yeah, that is quick. I wonder how many of those were from Seattle or California. It'd be interesting.
Oh, I don't know that one.
That.
Yeah, that'd be a stat to track.
Yeah, well, I don't know about you guys, but I've had so many phone calls from people, and they are sneaking over the border. They're breaking their stay-at-home orders from those 2 other states, and they're buying property here and then going home and getting their stuff.
Yeah.
That's what they're doing.
Well, just to tell you how crazy it is. I mean, right now, you would expect in a normal year, you have a lot of listings coming on because it's the spring, right? March, April, May, the 3 busiest real estate months of the year. But just in Jackson County last week, what happened? Okay, just figure this thing out. Why we're losing that. We had 65 new listings, okay? But in the meantime, we took 140 homes off the market that either sold or went pending.
Right, yeah. So that's why we're worried. That's why we're having this conversation. Yeah, so if you're out there listening and you wanted to move, then call your realtor and get some advice about how to do it safely. And how to do it quickly, because it's an incredible opportunity. Those people who are taking the chance are getting, like, we had someone who closed at 3.0.
Yeah.
A regular person, not a veteran.
Yeah, we may never see interest rates like these again.
Yeah, yeah. And the last time I
do know of some listings in the system and a couple that have even sold where they've put right in there, seller is high risk and there will be no in-person showings. Without an offer being written.
Really?
So they weed down the in-person showings to only those who are really truly serious about, you know, they do everything virtually, and then they let the potential buyer come see the place only after they've submitted an offer.
Wow. Well, we've got a break coming up. We want to talk more about that. If you're a high-risk person, whether you're buying or selling, Tina Grimes, Devin Zupan, Pete Belcastro on The Real Estate Show. I'm Alice Lema. We'll be back here in just a minute to talk more about how to buy and sell your property during a pandemic. Don't go away. Well, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Real Estate Show. I'm Alice Lema here with Pete Belcastro. We're brokers at John L. Scott, Southern Oregon. We're here talking to Devin Zupan, managing broker of Windermere Van Vliet, and also Tina Grimes, the CEO of Rogue Valley Association of Realtors. We also have 10 years of YouTube. You can find us on YouTube at realestateshoworegon.com. Lots and lots of great content all about Southern Oregon real estate. Last decade has been really something, hasn't it, guys? It really has.
Yeah, it has. Hey, I want to say one thing, Alice, there, that Devin is also the president of the Rogue Valley Association of Realtors. And, people who contribute, they volunteer their time a lot. The people, the vice presidents, I know Barbara Brown in our office's part is that as well. So thank you for doing that, because that's a lot of time you give to realtors, and a lot of times no one says thank you, but we want to make sure that we acknowledge you for doing that, because it's a big job and a lot of time, and thank you for doing it.
Yeah, and keeping us informed. So
Yes.
right before
I couldn't do my job without people like Devin and Patrick and Barbara and you guys who are involved in any level.
Well, and realtors volunteer. I don't think people realize that we do a lot in the community. We're not just out, opening doors and writing contracts. We're also helping the whole housing industry.
I've said it before, and I mean, I don't have, like names of people to back really, but I doubt you would find a charitable activity in this valley that there isn't a realtor involved in it somewhere.
And think of all the things that realtors were doing before the pandemic hit that you were involved with, from the Food and Wine Classic that got canceled, your fundraising things for those,
yep.
And everything else. So you're right. And, we just pick it up next year, I guess, when we come back, right?
Well, we have the Food and Wine Classic rescheduled for October 16th. We'll see.
Well,
fingers crossed for that happen.
If anybody's guess.
Virtual wine tasting.
And also, I know you guys have a foundation over at John L. Scott. You're probably doing a lot with that. I know the Windermere Foundation just raised $680,000 for food banks.
Good for you. For our local Southern Oregon food bank?
No, that's region-wide.
Still, that's amazing.
Yeah, so that covers the Western region. But yeah, each office chips in and does their own. Like I said, I know John L. Scott, you guys do the same thing. So it's more than, nice thing I love about realtors in this industry is even when we can't go out and physically put our hands on something to help the community, we're pitching in, whether it's with our dollars, whether it's being a part of these different types of Zoom meetings to educate people. We're busy, and a lot of people I know are not as fortunate as us to be out there still working or working from home. But the realtor organization in general, whether it's at a local level, a state level, or national level, is filled with kind, caring realtors that really do want to get back to their community.
Yeah, and we're so grateful to still be working. And in a lot of states, realtors were designated as essential service people. And in Oregon, we were not exactly put on that list. So how did that all come together so that we could still help people? Because people still need to move.
So we weren't declared essential, but neither were we deemed non-essential. We were put in that middle kind of ambiguous category of, if you can do your work and observe social distancing guidelines, go ahead. So, we were able to adapt and keep functioning. I know from my talking to some of my counterparts across the country, the states where they deemed real estate non-essential, it was crippling.
Yeah.
It's crippling to the people, to the consumer. Yeah.
And that's what I mean. They had, they just saw a dramatic spike in homeless rates. They saw a dramatic spike in suicides and all kinds of things, because people just, if this pandemic has shown us anything, it's shown us the value of home, because all of a sudden home became everything. It became the office, it became the schoolroom, it became, your sanctuary at night. I mean, it became everything. And
everything.
In those states where they declared it as being non-essential and it had to absolutely shut down, all of a sudden people felt like home, which was such a vital part of your life, was no longer safe.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Very good.
Scary place to be.
I'm curious to how you three how do you think people should react if you're in a high risk area? You know, if you're an older person, if you have an underlying condition, how should we treat them in real estate, or how do we handle that type of situation? I know we're going to run out of time to talk about this, but just curiosity how you would handle that, because there's a lot of high-risk people out there.
There are, and I'd encourage all of my fellow realtors, as well as home buyers and sellers, when we start this phase one opening, abide by the rules. You know, I know you want to reach a hand out and shake someone's hand, but you know, in the current time, that's just not socially appropriate right now. Yes, there are some high-risk people, but I'd encourage you to treat every instance like it's high risk. So, like we talked about earlier, we don't need to have people going through homes unless they are pre-approved and ready to purchase today, ready to write an offer today. Tina alluded to some listings that she saw earlier where they actually wanted to see an offer before letting somebody in, and that offer can be written subject to physical inspection. That's fine. They can still go in and see it before they commit, but we want people to be very serious and take this very serious. When we go in and look at properties, home buyers, you know, do what you can to not touch stuff. Hopefully your agent will have their gloves with them, their mask, their sanitizing wipes. They can open cabinet doors for you with the sanitizing wipes and gloves. And agents, follow through, do it, trust me. In the beginning, I was one of the ones saying, oh, we don't need masks, we don't need wipes. I mean, you know, it's a different normal, and hopefully it's not a forever normal, but if there are rules put in place on the way that we should act socially until there is some sort of antibody testing or some sort of cure for this, then let's obey those rules, and that will keep our industry from getting shut down.
And don't bring a lot of people with you. That's the other thing. It got to be kind of a family recreational activity. Take the kids, take grandma, let's go look at houses. It's like, that's not appropriate anymore at all. Only the people that are going to be signers on the contract are to be in that house. Don't bring your dog.
And you're not going to see like open houses the way we used to, right? For a while, it sounds like this too.
No, yeah. Traditional open houses are not going to happen for quite a long time, probably.
Do you think for the rest of the year? Yeah. Has anybody said?
We're pinning you down, Tina.
Well,
give us a date.
Oh, it's okay. I mean,
no. I mean, I think, if somebody is really wanting to do it safely and respectfully, like Devin said, I think they'll wait till phase 2.
Yeah. No, I think you're right.
And even then, it should be a limit of how many people are in the house at one time. And if people are waiting outside the house, they need to be 6 feet apart. I mean, those kinds of things have to be observed.
Wow, you would have to mark the house off in 6 feet increments.
I would say one group at a time inside.
One group at a time.
You're just going to have to.
See?
So I think we can resume in-person houses eventually, but it will not be just a free-for-all like it used to be.
Right. It's a new way of doing business.
It is, and I would say, sellers, especially if you're in the high-risk category, if you're needing to sell your house, don't be afraid to tell your realtor what you need from buyers coming through to feel safe.
Well, and realtors are asking, so don't be shocked if they point blank ask you your personal health history.
And buyers, if you want to go look at a home and they're wanting you to, go to some extremes to go look at it because they're feeling safe, and you're in one of those people that think this is all a bunch of hooey, just remember it's not your home, it's their home, and be respectful of what they are wanting and they are needing.
Absolutely.
Well, and we're just about out of time, you guys.
That's a great way to stop, a great way to end.
Yeah, and boy, we could go on forever. Hope you guys will come back. Tina Grimes, Devin Zupan, Pete Belcastro, Alice Lema from the Real Estate Show, Southern Oregon. Thank you guys. We'll be back again next week. KCMX News Radio 880. Have a great week. Bye.
Thanks for having us.